So good morning to everyone and welcome to the introduction of quantum culture and practice. And this is specifically designed for the energy enhancement systems owners and their teams. So whoever is, if you're in one of your centers, the team people, they're all welcome to this. This is really important information, whether we proceed together or we do not. My intention is for this particular introduction to be of such high value that you'll be able to take it back to your energy enhancement centers today. Take back something of value that will change your result or upgrade your result or enhance and increase your result is the point of this. So to start with an explanation of where is this coming from in the first place. And so a teeny background is I I left home early and at 16 years old and finished high school by working in restaurants in the nighttime and then managed to get some jobs in companies like receptionist and things like that, like insurance actually and banking, believe it or not. And so by some, I would just say destiny or fate, I was invited very early on in a commercial banking situation with a bank that was very progressive in Los Angeles called Imperial Bank. And they offered me a position that was when I was 21 years old with very minimal education and to knock on doors of companies and talk to presidents and chairmen of companies. I was so scared. Oh my God. Those first cold calls, I was just terrified, And but anyway, and then encourage them to bank at the bank. Now, at that time period too, I made a joke about it a bit where girl bodies weren't allowed to speak to boy bodies about money because it just wasn't culturally accepted, if you will, back then. And so to navigate through all of that, being young, limited education, and a girl body. I mean, that's called 3 strikes, you're out. But the only reason I wasn't fired immediately is because the executive president of the bank hired me. So nobody could oppose him or felt compelled to oppose him. So I was dealing with a lot of opposition from the women too. I had an expense account and taking people out to lunch and like, who do you think you are with your credit card and your expense account on the bank, like that. And, but anyway, I had a deep sense in my soul that if I can make this work, then my life just changed forever. But I didn't have much time. So what I needed to sort out is I needed to sort out attitudes that I was holding because I started to agree with them. They're not wrong. I don't know anything. I was just surfing and playing beach volleyball with boys. You know what I mean? They weren't wrong. However, I am here now for a reason. So I need to find a way to be successful. So what I had to do very quickly was change my attitude. And so I started to, before any meeting with any company, I started to write down what are my qualities as a human being. I'm honest, dedicated, sincere, loyal, generous, kind, hardworking. Okay, so I made the list. So when I walked into the company, I stood up a little bit higher, actually. I was saying to myself, I may not know much about banking or anything really, but the character I'm bringing to the table is quality. So whatever your question is, I can make a phone call and get an answer. That started to change everything because of my own attitude about what I'm bringing to the table, which was on that list was not get money, by the way. On that list is here's what I'm bringing to other humans. And it was all about serving people. So what ended up happening that then changed my life at 21 to 22 is out of 125, these are, you know, strong banker, lots of credentials and resources and strong families and connections and all of that. I had none of that. And but out of the 125 people in production, in mathematical production, in 5.5 months, not even a full year, was third in production. And it was a big number, like 8.4 million. And when I got the call from the sales manager's office on January 4th, the secretary said, you need to sit down. And I thought I was going to be fired. Right? They were just being kind to not fire me at Christmas or before. And then she said, you actually really do need to be sitting. And so I said, just tell me what. And she said, well, out of the 125 people, you finished third in production, and it's 8.4 million, which I never stopped to count. And I actually said, that's not possible. She went, yeah, we didn't believe it either. So we counted 3 times, right? So, but that was the result. So now I have a whole different kind of opportunity. And they're starting to talk to me about training people. Because whatever I'm doing is working. So what is that? So in taking a deep look at the difference between the banker methodologies to get business and meet with people, and my own personality is I really love people, and I really feel I'm completely designed and here to serve. And that's clear to me. And then I just trust money comes. Well, apparently that's a combination that kept continuing my success rate. So the part that's really cool about this part is that and I have Dr. Sandra and Nikola Tesla here in their special place in my area where I do these calls. And is that what their intention is to be of highest possible value to humanity and heal the earth and the people at this time period could not be more significant. And because of those intentions, turns out I have subsequently learned that the frequency in quantum leaps, in quantum frequencies, is driven by intention. And I learned that from Mike Montgomery, who wrote a book called The Quantum Realm. And he wrote that book to teach kids about quantum physics. So his subtitle is Philly the Photon, you know. So what I learned about that is that, and then the highest intention is being of value. And Einstein said, strive not to be a success, but rather to be of value. Now, why would he choose that word of all the choices he could have had? So turns out the intention to be of value is the frequency that communicates and speaks the language of the highest possible states in the quantum field. So the difference in business, traditional business training, which I've taken a great deal of it, and I understand it, and I don't, it's not a match for my personality. And so then at 27, it turned out I was invited. I mean, my whole life has been invited somewhere. So it's like, okay, it's like having God's hand in your life, guiding you. So I'm like, okay, I guess I'm doing that now. So at 27, still in a girl body, still upsetting everybody, I was invited to start consulting to boards of directors of banks. So then I started to realize something, is that with this first bank, because I had brought a trust account in for $5 million. I had several banks and was putting money in the banks, and they paid me commissions, and that's how I made my living for quite a long time. And they said, you move this money so easily, we want to hire you to consult to us and help us because we're having trouble with turnover and we're having trouble with keeping what money's brought in. And we don't know what's going on. I went, whoa. I don't do that. Turnover, I have no idea. I've not been educated, trained, or experienced in the areas you want to have, and you need to find someone that does that because it's not me. And then this is a destiny shift also. is what the chairman of the bank said, who was an attorney. He said, but you know something we don't, and we'll pay you to find out what that is. And so that was my first consulting project. And then I learned something huge that then caused my life to leap in a whole accelerated direction, which is so I have this personality. The personality is like it's a way of being. And so I have certain aspects of my personality, hardworking, dedicated, love people, can't wait to serve. That's a personality. Well, companies have personalities. And in the business world, they call those personalities a culture. That's what they mean. They don't actually say it that way, but it's how they describe how a company is being is what is their culture. And so what I noticed in this bank, that first of all, within their personality collectively in the board, is that they had an opinion of the frontline staff that was little. It was Beverly Hills, and there was a whole tone at that time. I don't know, could still be there. I don't know. I've been there a long time. But they had a tone of elite, top 1%. And so they loved being in that status. And the rest of us were beneath. That was in their personality. And so having been a receptionist and, worked as a frontline person in insurance companies and a bank at some point when I was doing temp work and stuff, and realizing how important is that role. Because that role is the interface between all of the customers that come and go from the banks or the business. And so it turns out how they're treated and viewed is how they pass on that now identity that they've been told their identity is little, insignificant, and replaceable. How I know this for sure, I asked the chairman when I first started, I agreed to this consulting. And after just observing interactions with the chairman coming in through the bank and all that, I asked him, I noticed that he never said hello, good morning, or anything to anybody. And when I knew and had the solution to their culture, to shift the culture, is I said, why don't you say hello, good morning, or thank you to anybody when you walk in the door, for lunch, for in the morning, and when you leave? And he said, word for word, it's undignified to talk to little people. Right in that very moment, the tone of that, this was what was so fascinating. There's so much information and intel in energy and frequency, and his tones had a frequency that told me everything that's wrong with the bank. So the solution's so simple. So I need to shift it's not a shifting of their culture, it's a raising it. It was more like raising it. So I explained to them this point is that the frontline staff, whether they're aware of it or not, need to be viewed as their collective investment counselors. So all the branches that you have, how they treat the customer is how they're being viewed and treated. So they actually have in their hands whether your stock goes up or not. So I then asked how many in the room would like to have their stock go up. Of course, they all said yes. Oh, okay. Now, to do that, you need to start saying hello, good morning, and thank you. So I had a boyfriend at the time. He went, how's your day? And I went, I just taught 12 really rich men how to say hello and thank you. He went, what? They pay you for that? Yes, they did. So what ended up happening, because of that shift of attitude, where now their personality, I noticed that their personality became kinder, gentler. At first, they started being nice to be polite because their stock would go up. But then when they started interacting with people, they started to realize that this one's really interesting, or this one's really smart, or I'm so lucky to have this one. It completely changed their personality. So what is quantum? So now let's fast forward to this moment. What is quantum culture? So if quantum frequencies are driven by highest highest frequencies coming for us. Before I even move on to that, my favorite quote in the whole world is Albert Einstein's quote where he said, "The spirit that moves the universe is the same spirit that moves our soul." So that means that the frequencies of the quantum field exist in our heart and soul. So how do you speak to the quantum field? Greg Braden talks about the language of the field, quantum field, unified field, etc. But anyway, but the language, when we speak the language, so the language that comes from us is the language of we're here to serve. We're here to be of value to you. We're here to see to it that you have a quality of life. You do realize that Nikola Tesla, this amazing, he's probably from another planet. He was so incredible, right? I know that sounds a little weird. I couldn't say that in an insurance company. I would have been escorted to the door on the spot of saying something like that. Just know that I know that. Which is why I love you guys so much. I get to be me exactly, and that's, not a bad thing. But anyway, but what Tesla, his quote, which I love so much, is his intention was to quote unquote harness nature to improve the quality of life for humanity on Earth. He lived like a monk. That's all he thought about, is contributing to the quality of life. Where did the scalar frequencies come from? And then this amazing, lovely human, Dr. Sandra Rose Michael, who I'm really looking forward to meeting, hopefully in early February. And she's aware, by the way, that we're doing these classes, and she's pretty excited about it. I don't want to speak for her because I haven't met her yet, but Dr. Jenny is speaking with her on a regular basis about what we're doing here, because this matters. And so with Dr. Sandra Rose, when I describe her to people, she's like, I say her father was like some super genius physicist and her mother's super genius physicist. And then they got together and have her. Can you imagine that DNA? That she's operating from? A loving heart and a genius capacity. And so now the Energy Enhancement Systems has a collective of her offering frequencies, quality of certain frequencies, as well as Tesla frequencies. Now, so with all that said, I now have for the last couple of years been doing my local here, Energy Enhancement Center. That's actually in someone's home. And so now I'm really attached to them. They're such lovely people. And so I bring a lot of guests over there and do all kinds of things to help them grow and stuff, just because I believe that these frequencies, the impact it's had on me the first day is like I was floored, absolutely floored at how the higher state life condition I left in. So now putting together to make sense of all of this, that for my entire career, which is, in traditional business and banking and the banking customers and those kind of companies, and it's all been corporate stuff, right? But my passion for them to succeed was to also pass on a business plan I created called Value Exchange Dynamics. And CPA firms started operating from this premise of value exchange dynamics. Now, the reason there's dynamics involved in intending value is because that is the language of the quantum field. So now what starts happening when you launch an intention that's to be of value to another human being, the dynamics in the quantum field start assembling itself to match the frequency that you just launched. And that's why the smallest of shifts create the most exceptional results, because the quantum field is doing all the heavy lifting. there's a chapter 3 in my book, Quantum Living, which I wrote about all of this. Quantum Living, Moving at the Speed of Life. Chapter 3 is called Leveraging Quantum Energy. And so, oh, I'm just so excited about this. So putting together that when I was now consulting to companies at the board levels is to shift the culture to holding collectively an intent to be of value. Now, in the case of the chairman of the board, to be clear, for that person to understand that their customer is that board of directors. And the intent, this is called creating a culture, a full culture of quantum frequencies. So the chairman understanding that the board is their customer and serving them is his objective. And then the board is to be uplifting and encouraging and empowering the people that will serve their customer, which is their thank you to their customer. So it's a really big deal, this intention piece. So since I have spent, few decades now in this situation, teaching, training, encouraging, inspiring, and of course, not everybody gets it because the indoctrination is just calling 100, you get 3 of something. So it's a lot of doing. How much do I need to do? And what else do I need to do? When quantum is not about doing, quantum is how you're being. Therefore, you're attracting. It's the difference between going and getting and attracting in. So now what's happened is in fact, a really good friend of mine was in San Francisco, and I encouraged him to go to Dr. Jenny's center in Richmond called Wellness Vision, and which he did. And he had, I would call, we'll say, mood swings to keep this, safe conversation that were significant for a lifetime. And then when he was entering her center, he called me to say, I'm now going inside and I'm in the mood swing thing, and feeling high anxiety, and all. It was that's a freaking out kind of situation. He goes in there for 2 hours and calls me, and he was stunned, like never in his lifetime have all those frequencies of anxiety subsided that fast and that fully. He said that they're like kind of speculating, but there may be like a small, maybe 10% is what he said, of that anxiety frequency still present, but it's much less, and the rest of it is gone. The next day, he signed up for the, I guess you come in as much as you want. And so he then began swimming in that frequency, swimming in that frequency. And then started inviting a lot of people. You see, so the point of all of this is now I'm putting these several decades in traditional business on how to create a culture that will attract, and with so little effort, with all the experience of doing it even in traditional business. But now the part I'm personally excited about is doing this with these energy enhancement systems. And why is that? So what's happening, if you look at the big picture of what's happening on Earth at this time, so now the big picture view, what do they say, the 30,000 feet view or something, but the big view is that humanity is full blown in its evolutionary shift of consciousness. That's what's happening on Earth right now. People are in the process of raising their consciousness. So how do you raise someone's consciousness, or how do we raise our own consciousness? It's being aware of the Tesla and Einstein quotes about energy, frequency, vibration, which is Tesla. If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Albert Einstein said, everything is energy and that's all there is to it. Match the frequency of the reality you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. This is not philosophy, this is physics. It can be no other way. So what those two that we're still talking about after all this time, we're still talking about them. Why? Because the value that they're bringing to this right now is to access these highest possible fields in the quantum fields that is like genius, that is creativity, that is intelligence. I did seminars in business on intuitive intelligence. It was a bit of a stretch, but time to plant some seeds, And so how do we raise our consciousness is to raise our frequency. How do we raise our frequency? We raise our frequency automatically when our intention is to serve humanity. Now, what would enhance our intention is the point of the quantum culture and practices class. So what enhances our intention is when we realize at the deepest possible level that we can reach, we can access, that this technology that these two amazing humans have brought to this planet is doing exactly what the destiny of humanity is heading towards, which is raising consciousness. And when our consciousness is raised to higher states and higher frequencies, there is no suffering, none, zero, because suffering is created by the ego mechanism in the mind, because the ego is a divisive mechanism, and its only evaluation potential is good, bad, and right, wrong, and then superior or inferior. So in the ego mechanism, it's very important for its survival to be right and superior. Well, we're not in, so we're evolving into, from a rational mind, you could say, information source to make decisions, to a heart-based consciousness. And Heart Math Institute is talking about this a great deal, as is Noetic Science, which is Dr. Mitchell, Edgar Mitchell, Apollo 14. And when he was coming back from the moon, he had this enormous condition of bliss, as he put it, that what he felt the frequency of the universe was benevolent intelligence with vast knowing, is word for word what he said to me personally when I got to meet him in Tucson. And so, and did a couple events for Noetic Science. So now, there's a lot of stuff going on the planet. So how's this for a case study? How many people, or I'll say another way, because I can't, most people I can't see, but is that have heard of and certainly watched What the Bleep Do We Know? Have you heard of this documentary? Oh, Patty, great. Yeah. Do you remember the scene, Patty, in there of Dr. John Hagelin, the Washington, D.C. experiment? Do you remember that in the
To be honest, I watched that movie 19 years ago.
Thank you, me too. But I watched it a really whole bunch of times.
Yeah, I watched it that time like maybe 5 times. And
Okay.
then it's been 19 years, so it's
Yes,
hard
it
to
has.
remember, you
Yes, it
know?
has. It was early. It was first shown on planet
Mhm.
Earth here in Phoenix.
Yeah, yeah.
So
But
that,
it's very good. Highly recommended
yeah,
to
it's
watch. I
very
mean,
good.
it was 20 years ago, but it's
It's all
still,
about physicists,
yeah,
quantum scientists talking about consciousness
yes.
from different countries and all that. It's like a documentary interview, but it has some I would say Hollywood stuff in it, acting
Mhm.
out things and that. But in that, Dr. John Hagelin he had done 48 previous experiments on something, and then was now on the 49th. He went to Washington, D.C. and went on TV, like a press conference, and said, and Washington, DC at that time was called the murder capital of the world. Can you imagine? I mean, the murder capital of the world. I mean, that's serious. And on top of it, the murders and the crime was the worst in August because it's hot and muggy, East Coast and all that. So what Dr. Hagelin did, because it is a math equation, where at Heart Math Institute, and he's part of Heart Math Institute in that as well, or certainly was at that time, is that it's only going to take 1/1000th of 1% of people on this earth to raise their frequency. And if you have 1/1000th of 1% of people who's in high state frequencies, meaning ego free in a sense, because then all this cool stuff that we're designed to enjoy, experience, and utilize to serve people is just there. It's always been there. So so what he did is in the math equation for Washington, DC. So he went on TV. The police chief is standing right next to him. He said, we're going to reduce the crime rate in Washington, DC by 25% in August right now. And so that would be like a summer kind of experiment. And how he was going to do that is that he brought in, or, people flew in of their own choice, 4,000 meditators. That what they were now doing is meditating wherever they were in Washington, DC, in their own space and all that, to get themselves in a high state. That's all they did. And then the police chief, as Dr. Haglund, sounded like someone in my business classes, actually, this police guy, because what he said was, if crime rate's going down by 25% in August in Washington, D.C., then that's going to take 3 feet of snow, and that's not going to happen. But then what happened? The crime rate went down by 25% because of the frequency being raised in that town. So that meant that people that did crime for a living sort of didn't feel like robbing that day or that in that cycle. Because the higher state frequency starts to neutralize, because the energy interacts with itself in a likeness attracts manner. So if there's a lower state frequency, you could say it in another way. Have you met up with friends that are in a really bummed state? They're just bummed out about something. And then you meet them, but your state is so high because you love them and you want to encourage and inspire them, and you don't want them to suffer anymore at all. And what do is you change their frequency just by how you feel about them and how sincere you're caring about uplifting them. That's a frequency exchange. So Tesla was spot on as Einstein. It is all about frequencies now, because consciousness is a frequency. So what this energy enhancement system that you guys are so generous and brave and sincere and loving to participate in and get set up to invite people to come in and heal, what you're doing is contributing to the most significant issue of mankind's evolution, which is raising consciousness. That's what you're doing. So when you shift the intention from, I get the business side, by the way. I'm a business person, but I'm a spiritual business person. I'd say I'm a spiritual person in business. And so there's money issues. We're in a material world at this time, and it's about, got to get a certain amount of money so that you can keep your overhead and keep going. So how that kind of situation works is basically, communication with the field. There's this amount of money that needs to come in to keep our doors open. And it's like setting a goal is launching an intent. So this much money is the issue. Now that you've said that, Do you know what intention, the definition of intention is? This is in dictionary, by the way, generator of power to produce. So intention, you launch an intention and now it's out there. So then the very next thing to start focusing on is your contribution to raising the frequency of consciousness in humanity at the most crucial time in all of human history, which is right now. And there's an urgency about it. And when you start looking at what you're offering to the community is urgent for not only you and them, but for the planet. And to know that raising frequency is the solution, because the negative, what do you call the lower state frequency is an ego base, complaining, that's not right, that's not fair, that shouldn't have happened, that's, how did they get away with it, that's not right. I mean, there's so many ways that we could point at that and evaluate that way. But you know what else? So what I learned myself, being the mistress of complaining about all of the bad stuff on the planet for a period of time, when I realized at some point that created all of my freedom and completely changed my frequency, is changing my perspective on what I'm seeing. Because when you change your perspective, it takes on a whole different consciousness, judgment free. And changing my perspective now, when I see bad stuff or see stuff that somebody robbed or murdered somebody and they're getting away with it because they're a movie star, stuff like that could, a lot to complain about on something like that. However, if the issue is to raise the frequency on the planet, we accomplish that in a spiritual dynamic. It's not a brain thing. It's a heart-based consciousness, spiritual thing. And so when we do that, is how we lift the frequency on the planet. Therefore, when the bad, you could just, for the sake of this conversation, the bad stuff happens. When that happens, it's like, see, what's so cool about this happening, this dynamic is perfect because the universe is perfect, is that this is inspiring people to find a solution, because getting a group together and saying, what's the strategy so we can stop all this crime? And it isn't war, and it isn't weapons, and it isn't all that stuff there. It's all being talked about all the time. That isn't the way, isn't necessary to destroy someone to agree with us, which is what's happening on the planet. All we need to do is raise our frequency, because you know what happens? Those that can't hold the higher state are not in your experience anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Or they raise their frequency because they don't want to lose the connection to you. One or the other. And so what's becoming so obvious to the planet right now is that there just isn't a strategy that can be created and launched to fix all of this. That's not going to work. But you know what's going to work is what John Hagelin, Dr. John Hagelin did in Washington, D.C., raise the frequency, end of story, reduced by 25%. So all we need to do is understand that that's what you're actually doing, is raising consciousness. And this time in human history, there are so many platforms talking about this subject, and this time period we're in right now is more crucial to humanity's survival than ever in the history of humanity. And then here are you loving angels that have come forward, not only with the heart to do something about that, but now the amazing technology from these two angels to accomplish it and invite people in. And when you hear the stuff that can't be communicated publicly about all the other powerful impacts that higher state frequencies have on human consciousness, with challenges, mental challenges, that I won't say the name of, but you know what we're talking about. And those things are neutralized and frequencies are raised. DNA is repaired, restored. Are you kidding me with this? It's the very solution. You've all heard about the golden age of enlightenment for 1,000 years. Can I trust that you've all heard that that's in history's future? I mean, in humanity's future. Well, guess what? Guess what? Right now is the beginning of that cycle beginning. And guess who's escorting people in it? You all, angels that you are, and those people and us. We're escorting humanity into that era that lasts for 1,000 years. So, with all of that said, I am completely, I don't want to say maniacal because that doesn't sound like a positive word, but I am so committed to your win that I don't have appropriate language, I believe, to say how because I am fully aware at so many levels that my destiny is supposed to be here with you, that what you're doing is supposed to happen. What you're doing is escorting humanity into the evolution of consciousness that will be the survival and the beginning of the golden age of enlightenment. That's all happening right now with what you're doing. So the shift of intention when you are in your centers is to understand that people, for their sake and the sake of the world, must come in and raise their frequency here because there isn't any education out there at this time for the mainstream to help people get into. I mean, there is some, but there is education in some way, but the exposure is minimal. But how to keep your frequency high states in spite of all the quote unquote bad stuff you see. There's nothing, but there's so much judgment going on. I mean, how do you get out of that cycle? The lift of that happens inside your energy enhancement centers. Because now people go outside from that. I know this for sure, because I've been going for 2 years myself, is that you walk out of there in a higher state, in a peaceful state. I couldn't believe me. I have the Irish thing going on, especially when I get on the highway and somebody's cutting me off and stuff and doing aggressive driving, and then I can go dark. I'll just say Irish, and just then say a bad something. But I left the center. This was probably that really got my attention maybe a couple months ago. And I'm so just happy. And then get on the highway and just go, oh, there's people and I'm so lucky. And I mean, a completely different attitude. So, and then we build on that. So is this making sense to you guys? And so what we have is it's a two-part. If you want the second part, it's up to you. But the first part is the quantum culture and practice. And that's like a close to a 4-hour class. We're doing the next one on January 21st. And same time, 8:30 to about noon 30, something like that. Because what that's about is how do you practice what we're talking about, intangible business setting things? And how do you enhance your center? Because when you hold an intention to be of value to other people, what happens is you're activating a frequency that exists inside of them also. So they're sensing that there's a trust happening because they have that inside of them too. So if you're launching that, you have more immediate trust and they can feel it in the field. I have so many of these kind of stories. I won't take the time now, but where companies overnight going down for the count, going to be shut down. We shift that culture, which when people are that, I would say desperate, if you will, because they're going to be shut down. They're open to whatever. I'll do anything. There's what they're saying. So they don't resist this unusual concept to be of value to people rather than I need money from them, which just happens in business as a training. And when they shift that, the miracles of their results without even talking to people. And I have a really lot of those kind of stories. So anyway, and then just for you to know, my website is quantumleadership.group. And on the home page, when you scroll down a little tiny bit, you'll see that class is being offered on the 21st of January, it's a complete transformation in the blink of an eye. And it's such a wonderful experience to offer it. I'm committed to your result of having people coming, going, coming, going, coming, going. Do you know what I mean? In your centers, because they need to be there. You will attract them by saying, we love you and we need you to raise your frequency and we've got a solution. Just please join us because you're going to be so happy. And guess what happens? You already launched the number to the universe, 10,000, 20,000, 50, whatever the number, you've launched the number. And then guess what happens? Those numbers come in I call them out of the blues, meaning without a strategy. The strategy, if I do these 5 things, then by the 6th thing, the money will come in. That's a strategy where you're deciding on behalf of everybody how they're going to behave. That's why that doesn't work. There is something called law of average. If you do enough stuff, enough time, all of that, but who wants to be a robot to dollars? I mean, that's not any fun. Do you know? But out of the blues are fun because now you go, wow, the universe loves me and is on my side. Because that came in out of nowhere. The universe heard me with the number that's needed. And then here it's coming in from people that can't wait to be with you. And so anyway, so there's a place to then register. The number for that class is in the honor of Tesla 369. And then what you get for that is you get a video taping of that class that you can have forever. And any employees or people working with you, helping you in your centers are welcome to come. And it's one fee for each center, not the number of people. So no matter how many people you want to bring in there, I wouldn't bring in your clients because this is about the business side of it. Do you know what I mean? So it'd be specific to that. Do you know? And then there's other kinds of things that I'm real excited about offering and looking forward to putting together down the road a bit, not very far. I want to talk to Dr. Sandra about this. We can meet in early February, but there's classes that I do called Quantum Freedom. The public really loves this subject. And so to come to your centers and invite people to come in and do this wonderful event on, how amazing we are and stuff like that. And then there's all kinds of other ideas to create partnerships with others that will attract their clients to you also. So that's what that class is about, is that those kinds of things come to, and then you have that, it comes to the real world, if you will, because the quantum field manifests it for you, And so anyway, so questions, I see that there's 2 in the chat. I don't usually take my attention off of that, but I should do that. Oh, my webcam, oh, Michael Chen. Okay, I will send you the video, Mike. If you can hear this, I'll send you the video. And then Deborah said yes. Thank you, Deborah. Yeah, so, okay, we'll take care of that. I mean, I have his email, so I'll send it to him, so we're good, okay. Would anybody like to have a question? Ask a question about anything. And just unmute and ask away. Questions?
Hi, Daryl.
Hi, Deborah.
I don't really have a question. I think everything that you shared was very clear, but I just wanted to thank you for this time, and your passion is just beautiful. I just really love the vibration that you're sending out to us right now, and thank you for that. And I'm definitely looking into the course and a little bit more into your work, and I hope to
Yes, thank you.
hope to be with you soon.
I hope so too. And then we do a follow-up class a month later
Mhm,
to find out like how did everything go, you know, I mean like that. But then I interface with in the meantime too, because I'm dedicating the rest of my life to this and to you. End of story. The insurance companies are going to have to find somebody else, and the banks and all of that. They can find someone else, and I'm okay with that. And because this is the most important thing in our lifetime, is to understand beyond a shadow of a doubt, we're here to raise the frequency. And that's a job. I believe we're going to go back to that place in heaven or something. And there's going to be a gauntlet of angels applauding, going, oh my God, the heroes welcome, because we stepped into this mess willingly to anchor light. And I have this vision, I've told some people I do have this vision that when I go back there, I'm going to go mission accomplished. Next. I don't need a break. What's next? Let's go. You know, we got this. So I do believe that the people that are here, the light workers of the people here, are very special and here intentionally and chosen in a way. So I'm over the moon to finally meet my tribe. I haven't had one in my lifetime. And so I'm grateful for that. So I'm in completely. So whatever it takes, there'll be more coming, but it starts with shifting your corporate, you know, but your quantum personality, right? This the culture is personality. So you shift it a little bit, saying, I'm on a mission to see to it that we raise the frequency on earth and we really need your help. Can you come between 10 and 2 on Saturday? It's not complicated, the conversation. Once you get that's the issue. And then I can promise you the money is taken care of somehow. Because it has to, it's supposed to. Because of what you're bringing to the planet. It must serve you, MUST. This is not, you know, this is not just kind of like a luxury. This is an urgency. And when our intention becomes like an urgency and the solutions are in serving the people, because they're collective, raising their own consciousness is the solution. And we got the technology, we got the heart. Come on in, you're welcome. We're here for you 100%. Do you see? And then, oh, by the way, 10,000 would be really good. Wherever it comes from, they don't represent the dollars. Do you know? They don't represent the dollars. They represent the service that you're offering to the planet, yourself, and them. So the dollars will come. But if they come through the people, it's because they want to do it. Not because they're supposed to, because you need 25. Do you know, like, so it's a shift of attitude. Yes, Patty.
Yeah. I also want to say something
Yes.
about the book that you have on the back that you haven't talked about, Quantum Living.
Yes.
I had that book from that beautiful lady that we're just seeing right now at the screen, and it's very, very good. I just can't get enough of it. It's like The Power of Now. When I read it, that it became my book on my, you know, that every time that I, you know, have anything like crazy, I just open the book and remember all these steps that I have to take. And I just, you know, it's been very, I haven't finished the book because I'm taking it very slow, trying to digest every chapter and trying to see if I really understand what you're trying to, you know, to express in the book. But it's been very, very encouraging reading, and
Thank you
I
for
just love my time with the book.
Oh, thank you. Here, I have it right here. I'll show, yeah, I don't promote or sell stuff. I mean, I really don't. I'm here to serve, but I will say this about that. This is the book called Quantum Living, Moving at the Speed of Life. If people go to my website and buy it from there, then I get that message, and I not only autograph it, the bigger deal is the message that I'm getting intuitively to write to you. And then I send it out myself to you, you know, gift wrapped, if you will. I'm a girl, so I put bows and do things that Amazon doesn't do, you know what I mean? This stuff. But anyway, yeah, so quantumleadership.group. Thank you, Patty, for saying that. Do I have a
No problem.
minute to go a little bit over? I got to tell you a great story about this.
Yes.
Is that about this very book is that so right when it was being worked on and then finished and then published, a girlfriend I've had for 20, I don't know, 20, I met her, we were the same age. I met her when we were 24. I mean, just great for, I was in her first wedding and all of that. And anyway, so now she's here in Arizona on her third marriage, nightmare. So when I visited her, when I moved her, I was like, what are you doing with this man? You know what I mean? I said it more firmly as like a sister. But anyway, so what I noticed between them is he was always criticizing and judging her. And then what her ego was doing is fighting back. So I felt that I was like, whoa, you know. So anyway, here's what happened. So she gets the book. I mean, I gave her like right away here. I mean, I gave her the chapters before the book was actually published for her to start the process. And it's in the book called Retiring the Ego. You don't judge the ego's bad because it's not bad. It was put in our design for a purpose, for survival reasons. So in early mankind's development, you know, if a early man is walking through the forest and someone's walking towards him that looks similar, then his survival or her survival chances just went up because we're the same. If it's four legs growling, racing towards you and all that, your survival chances just went down because it's different. So the ego mechanism's only designed for the purpose of survival. And it's designed to evaluate similar is good, different is bad. And the frequency that drives the ego is fear. It's supposed to do that. And Einstein said, the mind was created to serve the human being, but we've created a culture where the human being is now the servant of the mind. It's exactly what's happening. That's backwards, right? So anyway, this is what she does. She's 73 or was 72 last year. And she stops judging. So no matter what he does, she takes the quote unquote high road because she understands that the issue is to stay in a high state. And she gets that. Okay, so I'm not going to go in a lower state to make you wrong and have this interaction. I'm not doing it. So she stays in this very high state. She was the dominant, what do you call it, earner in the family. And so anyway, she's in this high, lovely, loving state. Completely different person I've known most of my life. So anyway, I take her out for her birthday. And she said, you know, I'm going to give myself a birthday present. And that's calling the lawyer and filing for divorce because I'm good to just have my daughters and my grandchildren and I'm done with the thing with men. I'm done really. So anyway, and so what she does lovingly, because in the high state frequency, there's no lack. There's no not enough. There's no something's going to run out. There isn't any of that frequency at all. She takes all of the money completely in half, including her own personal accounts and everything, because it felt good to be fair. And gives him half of everything. She was so happy. So then check this out. All of this is because of this book. What's in here about how to do that is what she's went on radio saying. She was interviewed by someone because her story was so amazing. So she goes out to California where we grew up. And she has four girlfriends, I think she's had a lifetime. And they take her out to celebrate her freedom. And they ask her straight, you know, are you going to find another relationship? She goes, no, you know, I'm really good. I love my grandchildren. And I'm fine. I'm fine, really. It's really good. And then they mentioned a boyfriend that was quote unquote the love of her life in high school. Hello. high school. Stop it. How long ago is that? And she went, oh, Jeff? Oh, no, no, no. There's no way of finding another Jeff. And I haven't talked to him in 5 decades. So no, that's no chance. I wouldn't even think about it. One of the girls gets up and leaves the table, goes to the payphone area or something, or on her phone in a back room, and looks him up. Now, as big as talk about the miracles about to unfold. This is quantum. This is how quantum works, because it organizes the field. So she actually finds this guy and his phone number and where he's located is 1 mile from where they're having lunch. Stop it. It was like, oh my gosh. So then she comes back with her phone and hands it to Margie and says, here's Jeff's number, call him. She went, I can't do that. There's no way I can't do that. She went, well, then at least text him and see what happens. So she goes, okay, I could do that. So she does that. She texts him, and in front of all her girlfriends in less than 5 minutes, he calls her on the phone and said, is this Margie Darlington, the love of my life? He described her in exactly the same way. All that happened because she let go of judgment and was in this higher frequency state. So even saying his name brought him to, well, of course, now, hello, he was a very successful developer, real estate developer, all kinds of properties, and a successful guy and a really good guy. Now they're madly in love and they're together and they bought a house here in Arizona. So then Margie was reading the book, and a woman named Carrie Pena, who has a radio show, likes the cover because it's a kind of unique looking cover. And then Margie says, she said, what is that book you're reading? She went, oh, it's a friend of mine and blah, blah, blah. My whole life has changed, completely transformed. And so she said, I'd like to interview you on my show. And then she said, I want to interview the author of that. And then that happened just out of nowhere. See, those kind of things is the new normal when we raise our frequencies. That's called freedom. Do you know, negativity is bondage. That's why I do the class called Quantum Freedom, because there's like 6 keys, which is like a brief 6 of the key points in the Quantum Living book on where does negativity come from and how do you retire it? And how do you access these high states? Simple piece of cake. So I'm wanting to bring this to the centers and have your whole community come. We're not going to charge. It's not about money. You know, we need to we came here, the best of the best, to raise the frequency on earth. And that's why the gauntlet of angels going to be, can you believe they volunteered to go down into that mess and came back victorious? Wow. I just know that's going to happen. It's like I can feel, and I'm not looking for the thank you. I'm looking for mission next. Just finish this and let's go to the next one. I'm about that. So, and you guys too. I love you all so much. It's almost hard to breathe. I couldn't be more excited, and I can't wait to meet Dr. Sandra and really have a deep powwow how important this is. And this is not just a business. This is a mission and a destiny. We must be successful. We cannot not be successful. We can't. So I'm willing to, whatever that takes, to put everything in to see to it that you are. So I hope to see you on the 21st of January. And then, you know what would be cool to start with, like when you guys sign up, if you choose to do that I'd like to call you the day you do that and have a powwow about what would be of highest value for you before the class starts. Yeah, I think that feels like a really good idea. So there, Patty, thank you so much. So much. Are you going to be in the follow-up class next Wednesday?
Yes, of course.
I'll
see you on the 15th.
Yes, ma'am. I'm telling you, born ready.
I'm ready.
Because that's the polishing of what happened in this last month. So let me start polishing some stuff, and it's pretty cool. So anyway, thank you guys. We went over a bit, and I'm glad this is videotaped because you'll have this as long as you want. You will also have everything we do together as long as you want. So you can, so if you hire new people or expand or do anything, just have them watch, watch the class. The quantum, because you want them to be part of that culture also. And not look at what they're doing, serving you as a job. Do you know? It's not a job, it's a destiny and a mission. People are suffering, we've got a solution for that. That's why we're here. Let's make it really clear, and then everything will be different. Oh, Deanna, great seeing you. Thank you in person. Woohoo, woohoo. We talked on the phone a bit or two.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited and I'm so delighted and grateful for the work you're doing.
Thank you so much, you guys. I'm telling you, it's my honor and privilege. I've been entrusted with something that's, wow, lucky me, so I'm pulling out the best of the universe to help me to serve you guys. You're pretty extraordinary, so that's a lucky me for that. Raises my bar too for you. So, okay, guys, are we good?
Mhm.
Okay, thank you so much for everyone. Bless you, bless you, bless you for
Thank you,
everyone
thank you,
and
thank you.
forever. And I look forward to seeing you again, hopefully on the 15th, Patty, and
Mhm.
then the 17th, the 21st in January. And you'll be amazed what'll happen that day. And we'll start before that I give you my word. So you sign up, I call you, and we're going to have like a coaching right then, and then come to the class and we'll expand it. Okay. Okay, guys, I'm going to end this, and then I'm going to have to render it. It's called squish it a bit, and then I'll get it out to all of you. Okay. Have
Thank
a
you.
lovely day. Call anytime. My number's 720-232-9080. Call anytime. I'm here 100% here to serve you. Okay.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
Okay.
you. Have a
Bye.
lovely day.
Thank you. Bye.